Good evening, everybody. Lovely to be here again. Lovely to see so many of you in spite of the severe weather warnings. I'm not sure who all these seats are reserved for in the front. Can you hear okay at the back? Yeah. Yeah. So just notice the entire spectrum of your experience. The sound of my voice, the sight of this room, whatever thoughts or feelings may be present, the tingling sensations of your body, your face, your hands, your feet. Just notice the entirety of your experience, and without trying to change it in any way. And now notice that you are aware of your experience. In other words, notice that you are aware. Experience doesn't just consist of thoughts, images, memories, feelings, sensations, perceptions, and so on. It consists of all of these plus the awareness or the consciousness that knows them. Indeed, if awareness were not present, experience would not be possible. Just as the sun illuminates the earth, so awareness or consciousness, I always use those words synonymously, so awareness illuminates or knows all experience. The sun renders the earth visible. Awareness renders experience knowable. Awareness is, as such, the knowing element in all experience. And see that being aware, or awareness itself, is your primary experience. Most people believe and feel that their primary experience is the experience of being a body. It's not. Our primary experience is the experience of being, or being aware. Being aware, or awareness itself, is our fundamental experience. It is present prior to any thought, image, feeling, sensation, or perception. It is what we are at the deepest level. Most people overlook or ignore the fact of being aware or awareness itself because they are so focused on the content of experience. Thoughts, images, feelings, sensations, perceptions, and so on. When I say most people overlook the fact of being aware or awareness itself, I don't mean to imply that a person knows or has the experience of being aware and sometimes overlook it. That only awareness is aware. It's not a person that is aware. It is awareness that is aware. A person, the thoughts, images, feelings, sensations, and perceptions that constitute our experience of being a person are what we are aware of. It is we awareness who are aware. So when I say we overlook awareness, it's just a matter of speaking. A manner of speaking. What I really mean is, it is we awareness who lose ourself in the content of experience, and as a result overlook or forget or ignore ourself. Like an actor, John Smith, who plays the part of King Lear, loses himself so fully in the part of King Lear that he forgets he is John Smith. He never actually ceases being John Smith, but he just loses himself in the thoughts, feelings, actions, and relationships of King Lear and seems to become King Lear. Likewise, we awareness lose ourselves in the activities of thinking, feeling, sensing, and perceiving, and seem, as a result, to become a body and a mind, although we never actually cease being awareness. So what is traditionally referred to as prayer or meditation is just going back to yourself. Nothing special, just going back to who you essentially are, going back to the fact of being aware or awareness itself that is your essential nature. You never really cease being that. You just lose yourself in the drama of experience. Meditation or prayer is just the reversal of that process. It is the return to yourself, the remembrance of yourself. Once we have noticed that our primary experience, who we essentially are, is the fact of being aware or awareness itself, the next step is to go deeply into the experience of being aware, which means going deeply into yourself and recognizing or tasting its inherent qualities, if we can call them qualities. Notice, for instance, that awareness is continuously present. Throughout all changing experience. Your thoughts, feelings, sensations and perceptions are continually coming and going. Even as we've been sitting here for 5 or 10 minutes, you have all had numerous thoughts, perceptions, sensations. These have all appeared, lasted briefly, and vanished. But the awareness with which all of these are known has remained in place. It doesn't come and go with the coming and going of the content of experience. The awareness that is aware of this experience, your current experience, is the same awareness that was aware of your experience 2 minutes ago, or 2 days ago, or 2 years ago, or when you were a 2-year-old infant. So awareness is like it's like the golden thread that runs through your life. Everything else without exception in your experience comes and goes. There is no other experience that remains consistently present. All thoughts, images, feelings, sensations, perceptions, these are all intermittent, all coming and going. But the awareness with which they are all known remains continuously present. Strictly speaking, I shouldn't say continuously present. It's not present in time. I should say it's ever present now, but for the time being, let's say continually present. Present throughout all changing experience. If awareness were not present when you fall asleep and have a dream, it would not be possible to experience your dream. In other words, when the body falls asleep at night, the mind obviously doesn't fall asleep because it continues to generate dreams. And awareness certainly doesn't fall asleep because it knows those dreams. And then when those dreams disappear, that is when the mind does eventually fall asleep, awareness remains all alone in deep sleep. Deep sleep is not the absence of awareness, it is the awareness of absence. We all feel, I have been the same person all my life. Do you not now feel that you are the same person now as you were yesterday and last week and last year and 10 years ago and when you were a 10-year-old child? Well, what is it that accounts in your experience for this conviction that you are always the same person? After all, your thoughts, feelings, sensations, and perceptions are not always the same. So this conviction, this deep feeling that you have, I am always the same person, cannot be derived from an intermittent series of thoughts, feelings, sensations, and perceptions. The feeling, I am always the same person, comes from that which is always the same, in you. It could not come from anywhere else. Well, what is it that is always the same in your experience? The fact of being aware, or awareness itself. Awareness is the only element of experience that remains the same, consistently present. When you say, I have always been the same person, what you really mean is, I have always been the same awareness. But because we identify awareness with the body, we allow ourselves to become qualified, conditioned by the qualities of the body and the mind. Like the actor John Smith losing himself in the part of King Lear and allowing himself to be qualified by King Lear's thoughts, feelings, actions and relationships, so that he feels, I am King Lear. No, he's never King Lear. He's always John Smith. He's just temporarily clothed himself in King Lear. Likewise, you are always only awareness, or you have temporarily clothed yourself in thoughts, feelings, sensations and perceptions, and seem to have become a temporary, finite, limited self. So you, awareness, are continuously present or ever present. The second quality to notice is that you are always the same. Think back now to an experience you had as a child, a 5 or 6 year old child. Imagine being on the beach or at the circus. You were undoubtedly aware of your experience then. The sights, the sounds, the colors, the shapes, the textures, the smells, the tastes, and so on. All of these have disappeared. Whatever your thoughts and feelings were then have long since disappeared, but you were aware of your experience then. And the awareness with which you were aware of your experience then is the same awareness with which you are aware of your experience now. And that awareness has not changed its nature. It's like the sun that illuminates the earth today is in exactly the same condition that it was in when it was illuminating the earth 1,000 years ago. Everything on the earth has changed in the intervening years, but the sun, within the limits of the metaphor, the sun that illuminates the earth has remained the same. Likewise, the sun of awareness, the light of pure knowing, is in exactly the same condition now as it was in 2 minutes ago, 2 years ago, or when you were young children. In other words, nothing that's happened in your life, all the wonderful experiences, all the terrible experiences, all the neutral experiences, nothing that you have experienced in your life has affected you, the one who experiences them. Nothing that takes place in the drama of King Lear's life has any effect on John Smith when he goes back home. Nothing that takes place in a movie has any effect on the screen. Nothing that takes place in experience has any effect on you. It has an effect on your mind and your body, of course, but not on you, not on who you essentially are. In other words, you have never been hurt. You have never been traumatized. You have never been tarnished or changed or aged by experience. You are now in the same ageless, pristine condition that you were in on the day you were born. ever-present, changeless. And the third quality, if we could call it a quality, awareness is self-aware. What do I mean by this? Just as all the stars and planets are illuminated by the sun in subject-object relationship, that the sun is illuminated by itself. So the sun is self-luminous. It lights itself up. Everything else, all other planets and objects are illuminated by the sun, but the sun is illuminated by itself. Likewise, everything you ever experience, every thought, feeling, image, memory, sensation, perception, everything you ever experience is known or illuminated by awareness. But awareness is known by itself. It is self-aware. Indeed, our knowledge that we are aware, the awareness of being, is the only experience there is that does not take place in subject-object relationship, that is not subject to the duality of subject-object. In other words, the awareness of being, or the awareness of our awareness that we are aware, is the only experience there is that is not relative to the finite mind, to the subject-object relationship, thought and perception. And for this reason, it's said to be absolute knowledge, knowledge that is not relative to a finite mind. Ever-present, unchanging, self-aware, and always at peace. The sun is never disturbed by anything that takes place on earth. Awareness is never disturbed by anything that takes place in experience. Of course, I don't mean to imply that there is a distance between awareness and the content of experience, like there is a distance between the sun and the earth. Awareness is utterly, intimately one with everything that it knows. It's more like an aware screen on which the drama of experience, the movie of experience plays. And just as the screen is never disturbed by anything that takes place in a movie, so you, awareness, are never disturbed by anything that takes place in experience. In other words, you are inherently peaceful. Not a peace that depends on what is or is not taking place in experience, but a peace that is prior to and independent of the content of experience. And one more quality we could name: awareness is never enhanced or diminished by any experience. It does not stand to gain anything or lose anything from any particular experience, just as a screen doesn't gain or lose anything from a movie. Awareness is whole, full, complete, inherently fulfilled. And thus its nature is sometimes said to be happiness. Not happiness as state of the mind, but happiness, the quiet joy that is the nature of awareness, just the joy of being. So this is really the great recognition that all the religious and spiritual traditions point to, more or less directly, in one way or another. That what we are at the deepest level is at peace and inherently fulfilled. In other words, it is the source of all peace and happiness. And it is readily available to everybody at all times and under all circumstances. I'm not talking about some special enlightened awareness. Or the word enlightenment is one of the great misnomers in the spiritual traditions. That the sun never lights up. It never becomes illumined. Its nature is light. Awareness is the same. It never changes its condition. The awareness with which the Buddha was aware of his experience was in exactly the same condition as the awareness with which you and I are currently aware of our experience. There's no such thing as an enlightened awareness or an unenlightened awareness, just like there's no such thing as a light sun and a dark sun. It's true that for certain periods on earth, it's dark. And we believe that, we don't really believe it, but we say that the sun has set. No, the sun never sets. The sun's always the same. It always shines with the same brightness. It is just we on this corner of the earth that have turned away from the sun and therefore are not experiencing its light. It's exactly the same. When the mind turns away from the sun of awareness towards the content of experience, it seems to cease experiencing its light, its luminosity, its peace, its quiet joy. It doesn't mean it's gone away. It's just that we have turned away from it. As Meister Eckhart said, God is at home, it is we who are abroad. meditation or prayer is simply to sink deeply into the fact of being or being aware, and to recognize or taste its innate qualities. I don't have any privileged access to awareness. There's nothing I've said this evening that cannot be recognized in your own experience. And your ability to recognize the nature of awareness has nothing to do with the content or the condition of your mind or body. Everyone has equal access. Your ability to see the screen is not affected in any way by the content of the movie. Your ability to know yourself as you essentially are has nothing to do with what is or is not taking place in your experience. This recognition of the nature of your being is not an extraordinary experience. It is not really an experience as such. It may be accompanied by some expansion or relaxation of the mind and the body, but it equally may not. Above all, You do not become enlightened. You simply recognize yourself as you always and already are. Just as John Smith doesn't suddenly become John Smith when he ceases being entangled in the drama of King Lear. He just comes back to the self that he always already is. Nothing special except that it comes with a huge relief. That he is no longer affected by the drama of King Lear's life. He's at peace. It's exactly the same with this recognition of the nature of our being. We recognize that at the deepest level, we are free. We are inherently free from the content of experience, from the drama of experience. It's what the French writer Albert Camus was referring to when he said, I finally realized in the depths of winter there is in me an eternal summer. Even in the depths of winter, in the midst of your sorrow and agitation and so on, there is in you an eternal summer, the light of awareness, always at peace. Always happy. Okay, let's begin our conversation. Please feel free to ask about anything you like. If you just put your hand up if you have a question, and we'll bring a mic to you. Yes, right at the back, yes. maybe just tell us your name.
My name's Ella.
Bring
It's actually a question from a friend who couldn't make it tonight. Can you hear me okay?
I can, yes.
Okay. It's a question from a friend who couldn't make it tonight. Her question is, if there is no thinker, please would you tell us what is happening in you between hearing a question and responding to it? Is happening in between hearing a question and responding to it. Sorry, the second bit was repeated.
Okay, so when I hear a question such as this, I usually pause, and in that pause I wait for the answer, and then I formulate it. Sometimes the answer comes very quickly. If you ask me, what is 2 plus 2? I don't have to wait long. The answer just comes straight away. But there are other questions that sometimes I might not fully understand. I might not completely intuit where the person is coming from. So I might wait. And in that waiting, I'm just waiting. I'm not working out the answer. I'm not thinking. I'm just waiting for the response to come. Sometimes it comes very quickly. Sometimes it's a very easy, quick response. Sometimes it requires some elaboration. So the answer to the question is, I just wait in between the question for the answer to arise in my mind, and then I speak it to the best of my ability.
That's lovely. Thank you very much. I'll relate that back to her.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. Just one other thing to say about that is that often there are different sorts of questions. For instance, the question you've just asked, your friend just asked, is a very clear, kind of linear, rational question. Nothing wrong with that at all. But there are other questions that are not so clear, not so rational, and I have to listen to the question behind the question. What is really being asked? I had no doubt at all what was being asked in this case, because it was just a clear, linear, rational question. But other questions are not so clearly formulated, and there's no criticism of that. So I then have to intuit where the question's coming from. And for this reason, two people could ask a very similar question, but their questions could come from two different places in themselves, and would therefore get a different response. Okay, yes.
Hello.
Hello.
My name is Mylène.
Mylène, hi.
The question is simple. How would you help me challenge the fact that I believe my awareness is mine? This is my awareness. Does it? Is the question?
Okay.
Like I'm aware of my.
Okay. So, Mylène, if your awareness was your awareness, if it was limited to your body and your mind, it would be just that. It would be limited. Yes.
Yeah, I have an intellectual understanding, but.
Okay. So, if you say, I believe my awareness is my awareness, what you're saying is, I believe my awareness is limited. It's like saying, I believe the space in this room belongs to this room. It doesn't belong to the vast space of the universe. It's like saying the space in this room is limited to this room. Okay, well, how are you? And as you rightly say, that's a belief. So, how are you going to explore that belief? Don't adopt another belief. Don't believe me when I say awareness is unlimited. That's just replacing one belief with another. You have to meet that belief. You have to subject that belief to the scrutiny of experience. And only you can do that. So do it now. Go to the, are you having the experience? Is it your experience that you are aware? Yeah, keep using the mic. Yeah, you're having the experience of being aware now. So you have access to the experience of being aware now.
Yeah.
Tell us about it.
So, yeah.
Don't tell us anything that you are aware of, because your question was about awareness itself. To tell us about your experience. You acknowledge, and quite rightly, so that you are now having the experience of being aware. So you're in a very good position to tell us. Well, say what you can say about it, and only from your experience. Don't repeat anything you've read or heard. What is your current experience? Imagine now. You're trying to explain. Imagine someone, it's not possible, but imagine someone was not having the experience of being aware. It's not possible, but just imagine it. Mm-hmm. And you're trying to explain to them what the experience is like.
Oh, okay. I couldn't.
That's not going to help them. Try harder. Try and say something true about the experience of being aware, and go to the experience. Don't think about it. Go to the experience, touch it, taste it, and try to describe it. I know, strictly speaking, it's not possible to describe it. We all understand that, but do your best with words.
I'm searching all corners.
I
feel I'm searching.
Good. Keep searching. Keep searching for something true to say about the experience of being aware. You're doing very well, by the way.
Just aware that it's bringing all kinds of emotions.
No, don't tell us about your emotions. We don't want to know about your emotions. We want to know about the fact of being aware. You're doing very well. And then you got nervous, so you started telling us about your... Don't get nervous. Take your time. We're all with you. Tell us about the experience of being aware. Okay, that's very good.
Silent.
That's good. If I were to ask you, Milen, tell us about the experience of your hand on the mic. What would you say?
I can talk in terms of cold and
exactly.
Warm.
It's easy. It's cold. It's warm. It's hard. It's easy. If I were to ask you now, tell us about your thoughts. It's all right, you don't have to tell us, but it would be very easy, yeah? Okay. If I were to ask you now, tell us what you had for breakfast. You could. It's easy. All these questions you can answer easily. But when I ask you the question, tell us about the experience of being aware, you fall silent. Why? By the way, you're quite right. Silence is probably the best answer, and I know you weren't faking it, but why? Why couldn't you say something about it?
Because it's not mine.
Well, it's because it's not limited. Okay. Language has evolved to describe the limited content of experience. Everything you can describe in language has a limit to it. That's why it's easy to describe the sensation of your hand on the mic, your thoughts, your feelings, what you had for breakfast. What you can describe everything that has some objective content. My thoughts are agitated. My feelings are lonely. That mic is cold, and so on. But the fact of being aware has no objective content, no objective features, and therefore you cannot say anything about it. And having no objective features, it has no limits. Because if you could see a limit, you would be able to describe it. But you can't see a limit. In other words, it is your experience that awareness is unlimited. That's why you can't say anything about it. So now my question to you is, if it is your experience, not your belief, if it is you've just demonstrated that it is your experience, that awareness is unlimited, why do you believe that it's personal and limited. In other words, it's not for me to prove that awareness is unlimited, because that is our experience. It's for you who claim that it is personal and limited to show us that limited awareness. It's like somebody believing that the space in this room is limited. That it's, yeah. And then you ask that person, okay, but sample the space. And if you sample the space, not the walls are limited, but if you sample the space in this room is the vast space of the universe. So it's for the one who claims that the space is limited to produce a limited space. Has anybody ever produced a limited space? No. So now, what validity is there to your belief that awareness is limited to your body and therefore yours? It conflicts with your experience. So what are you going to trust, your experience or your belief?
I guess the experience.
Yeah, to trust your experience. Because you've adopted, we all have, we've all inherited from our culture the belief that what we are at the deepest level, awareness or consciousness, is temporary, finite and limited. That is the prevailing assumption on which our entire world culture is founded, the belief that what we are is temporary, finite, separate and limited. Our entire world culture is founded on that belief. And there are two inevitable consequences of that belief: sorrow on the inside and conflict on the outside. Look at the world today. Look at what's going on in the world today. The extent of the sorrow and suffering people experience and the conflicts in the world. Whatever their local temporary causes may be, the ultimate cause of all that sorrow and conflict is the belief that consciousness is temporary and finite. In other words, sorrow and conflict are the inevitable consequence of the paradigm that awareness is limited.
So for me it would be to carry on expanding into that experience and staying there.
Yes, it would be to keep going back to the experience that you went to when I asked you the question. I didn't really want you to describe awareness, by the way. I wanted you to go there.
I wanted you to challenge me.
Yeah, I wanted to push you back into the experience, the actual experience of being aware, to put your belief about awareness that you've inherited from your culture on one side and to go to the actual experience of being aware. And you did that. So what you have to do now is just go there and go deeply into that, so that you don't just understand, as I know you understand, that awareness is unlimited, but you feel it. Because if you feel that what you essentially are is unlimited and free and at peace and inherently fulfilled, that will completely transform your life. So just go deeply into the experience of being or being aware.
Thank you.
And that is really the essence of all spiritual and religious teachings, all the great traditions, in one way or another, in different language, all the methods, all the practices, all the pathways, all the meditations, sooner or later, more or less directly, end up with the awareness of being. Yes, right over in the back corner there.
Keep your hand up.
Keep your hand up so Shukra and Vanessa can find you. Yes.
Hello.
Hello.
My name's Angelique, and I have a lot of questions and no questions, kind of thing.
Okay, well, let's go somewhere in between the two. Just ask one, at least to begin with.
You were saying that life is busy, and I feel the essence, I feel the awareness. Is it just a repetition of doing that so it becomes a complete habit? Is it like a habit of inviting yourself into it more and more often so it overtakes you and
Exactly.
becomes you?
Yes. You say life is busy. If you feel life is busy, it means that you're living in your mind. Your mind is the place where your mind and your body. That's your home. That's where you live day by day. And the mind and the body are always, by definition, active, moving, more or less busy. But awareness is always at peace, just peacefully watching whatever's happening. So yes, it's just literally a matter of going back, taking a step back. If John Smith lives as King Lear, he's always agitated, he's always miserable, and he's always in conflict. All he needs to do is take even to suggest taking a step back is really too much, because even as King Lear, he is already John Smith, but he has to take a step back from John Smith's thoughts, feelings, activities, and relationships, back into himself, into John Smith. As soon as he does that, his agitation and his sorrow and his conflict disappear. He keeps playing his part, but he's at peace. So that's all you have to do, is just take that step back to the presence of awareness, which is deeper in you than your thoughts and feelings. Yeah, and then to begin with, you visit it from time to time, like as we have done this evening. But in time, you live there. In time, John Smith learns the art of going on stage, playing the part of King Lear, but not losing himself in King Lear's thoughts and feelings. He remains John Smith throughout, and he's always at peace. Whether he's playing King Lear or Julius Caesar or Richard III or Romeo, he's always at peace in himself. So it's like that. You just, to begin with, you visit awareness in yourself from time to time, but then you make it your default place, your default identity, where you live. And then you are awareness wherever you go. And then you feel safe. You can go, you can be busy, you can go out into the world. You don't have to turn away from activities and relationships. You can go full headlong into life, but you always take this peace, this imperturbable peace with you. And it's imperturbable because it has nothing to do with what is or is not taking place in your experience. Your mind may still be busy. You may have 4 children and a full-time job, in which case you're going to be very busy. So, and it's fine for the mind and the body to be busy, but inside there's this stillness in you, this peace in you. And it gets deeper and deeper. The more you stay there, it just gets deeper and deeper. Fewer and fewer experiences are able to take you away from that. To begin with, the slightest, somebody says something hurtful, or something happens, and immediately you lose your peace. But in time, the more established you are in the peace of your being, the fewer and fewer experiences are able to take you out of that. And when they do, it doesn't last long.
Thank you.
Yes.
Hello, my name is Xiang Yu.
Hello.
So, if I'm awareness, what's the point of this experience?
Does awareness ever ask that question?
No.
No, so your question is arising on behalf of the mind, not on behalf of awareness.
Yeah, may I share?
Yes, yeah.
When you say ask question, that's the first one that came to me. And it's the one that I feel in the past I've been going to when I've been entering the spiral of the mind, where there's a deep part inside me that's asked, what's the point of all this?
What's the point of your life? I would suggest that the most important point of your life, the most important purpose of your life, was to recognize your true nature. Because if you don't, everything you think and feel, almost everything you think and feel, and as a result your subsequent activities and relationships will arise on behalf of a temporary finite self, which in the ultimate analysis is an illusion. You don't want to live your life on behalf of an illusion. You want to live your life on behalf of who you truly are. So your primary purpose in life, I would suggest, is to recognize who you are. And then your secondary purpose is to express or share or communicate the fruit of that recognition in the world, in society, in life. Whatever that means for you. And it doesn't necessarily mean doing what I'm doing. That's just one way of doing it. There are so many other ways of sharing the qualities that are inherent in our true nature, the qualities of peace, love, beauty, and so on. So I would suggest that those are the two qualities, the two purposes in your life.
Thank you.
Yes. And then we'll come to you.
Thank you so much. Hello.
Hello.
My name's Alex.
Hello, Alex.
Hello. Thank you for your love and generosity that brings you here to share the depth of what you're sharing. So this awareness that includes the beating of this heart and sensations of what could be labeled anxiety at holding this microphone. When this awareness is aware of itself, there appears to be a touched quality and which I wanted to ask what you might understand that. Well, understanding isn't the word really, but what you might be able to share with us.
Alex, when you say a touched quality, what can you say more what you mean by that? Sorry, just one moment. Adam, could you turn this mic just down a little bit, please? Yeah. What do you mean by a touched quality? Do you mean a touched quality to awareness, or the anxiety is touched?
No, it's almost a quality of the heart, a quality of I might describe it as a mixture of grief and joy. I sometimes wonder whether it's that sense of meeting awareness, this awareness, and a sense of grief for all the years of having been away.
Yes, yes. I understand what you mean, yes. Yes, there is this deep... When you recognize that what you are at the deepest level is awareness, and that awareness is free and at peace and has never been hurt by experience, you're relieved of an immense burden. You've been carrying around these hurts and these sorrows and this narrative and these wounds and the anxiety and so on. But we carry these around like a heavy burden, and then you touch that place in yourself that is light, that is free, that has never been tarnished by experience, that has never been traumatized. It's such an immense relief. It's for some experience it just as deep peace. For others, there's a kind of it's more. I referred to it during our meditation. It can have either an expansive effect on the mind, or a dissolving effect on the body. Some people, you might weep. Other people laugh. Other people want to go out. A woman said to me once in California many years ago after a meeting, she came up to me and she said, "Rupert, when you have this understanding, don't you just want to go out and hug everybody?" I said, "Well, that's not a problem an Englishman has, but I understand that it may strike you in that way." So it can be expressed in many, many ways, but this deep feeling of relief and peace. And yes, I understand what you mean by grief. I would suggest that the grief is not really just the sorrow at the years when you were lost in experience, but because I've experienced this. It's a sorrow for the suffering of humanity. You become free of your own sorrow, but that enables you to feel everybody else's sorrow much more acutely, because you're no longer exclusively involved with your own psychology and everything, and you feel the sorrow of humanity. So that I think that is what you're referring to when you talk about this mixture of joy and grief.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Hi, Rupert.
Hello. Nice to see you again.
Yeah, thank you. My question is
Remind me your name.
Matty.
Matty, that's it, yeah.
My question is quite a simple one. How can I tell that this awareness is not generated by my brain?
Well, if awareness was generated by the brain or by matter in general, but by the brain, well, one, the brain would have to precede awareness. Because you're suggesting that first there is the brain, and the brain then generates awareness. So if that were the case, we would have to experience the brain first and awareness second. And no one's ever experienced the brain in the absence of awareness. On the contrary, the brain is an experience, a perception that takes place in awareness. So the idea that awareness is generated by the brain is completely contrary to experience. It conflicts with experience. And if awareness were generated by the brain, there would have to be some kind of mechanism. People that investigate the brain would have to find some kind of mechanism by which awareness is generated. No neurologist has ever found even an inkling of an idea as to how awareness is generated in the brain. No neurologist has a coherent theory about it. So it not only conflicts with our experience, it doesn't stand rational scrutiny. There's absolutely nothing that can be derived from the observation of the brain to suggest that it generates consciousness. So it conflicts with experience and reason.
When you say that, the response is not a rational one in me, but I can just feel like a warm, like a sense of love and
yes,
reassurance.
Exactly, Matty, because something about the way your mind works. You ask the kind of question that you ask because of the way your mind works, but as a result of the conversation, you're thrown back briefly into your true nature. Something about that residual belief that you inherited from your culture that's still lingering. Could the brain generate consciousness? There's something you don't want to believe it, but there's some lingering belief that it just might be true. So my response to you, it hasn't perhaps completely annihilated the belief, but it's dealt it one more mortal blow. And as a result, you're relieved because you want to believe your experience, namely that consciousness is primary, but the weight of your education is arguing with you. So you want, and I respect this, I was exactly the same, you want to meet the voice of your education with a reason why it is mistaken. So and I'm helping you do that, and that's a relief to you because it gives you more trust in your own experience. So it throws you back into your own experience, and you're thrown back into your true nature, and it feels peaceful there. That's why you're not just rationally satisfied by my answer, but there's a little burst of joy in you because you taste your true nature briefly as a result of our conversation.
Yeah, thank you, Rupert. And it feels like that sense of joy is not from my brain.
Absolutely, yeah. It's joy is the taste of being. Joy is the direct experience of being.
Thank you for answering that. I appreciate it a lot.
Yes, just in front of you, yes.
Thank you. I'm wondering why, if awareness is unlimited, why it's difficult for us to experience what other bodies and minds of other humans and animals and everything is experiencing.
It's like saying, if physical space is unlimited, which we all know that it is, why is it difficult for you to see what's going on in your kitchen now? After all, the space in your kitchen is the same space as the space in this room. So you can see what's going on in the space of this room. So why can't you see what's going on in the space of your kitchen? It's the same space. It's because the space in this room is boundaried by a wall that prevents you seeing beyond it. So although awareness is unlimited, it is boundaried by our perceiving faculties. Take a piece of white paper that represents infinite consciousness, and now draw with a pencil just a little circle on the piece of paper. That represents a finite mind, your finite mind. The boundary that separates the white paper inside the circle from the white paper outside the circle is perception. Seeing, hearing, touching, tasting, smelling. If you couldn't see, hear, touch, taste, or smell now, you'd have no experience of being limited or located anywhere. It is perception that, in fact, it is consciousness itself that rises in the form of perception, and in doing so, throws a boundary around itself. And the consciousness inside that boundary is the consciousness inside your mind. It's limited by that boundary. So, although the consciousness inside the circle is the same consciousness outside the circle, the space in this room is the same vast space of the universe. The awareness with which you are now knowing your experience is the same one infinite awareness with which we are all knowing our experience. Nevertheless, that awareness is boundaried by your perceptions, and this mixture of infinite consciousness plus the boundary of sense perception creates a finite mind. And the content of that finite mind is limited. The knowing element of that finite mind, pure consciousness, is not limited, but the content is limited by definition because of this boundary. Because when consciousness rises in the form of perception, it localizes itself. We are all temporary localizations of infinite consciousness. And this localization creates a boundary which restricts what we can perceive. It doesn't restrict that which perceives. The awareness is not limited, but what we are aware of is limited because of the limitations of perception. So that's why I can't know what you're thinking and vice versa. But that doesn't mean that the awareness with which I know my thoughts and the awareness with which you know your thoughts are two different awarenesses. Just as the fact that you can't see what's taking place in your kitchen doesn't mean that the space in your kitchen and the space in here are two different spaces. They're not. But each of those spaces is boundaried, and therefore the content of each room are not available to each other.
Thank you. Thank you.
These are very good. These questions, your question and Matty's question, these are, and some of the other questions we have, these are the kind of questions. They're all questions where your mind is raising an objection. Surely awareness is created by the brain. Awareness must be limited because I can't know your thoughts. These are the normal objections that the mind meets this approach that I'm sharing with you. These are the classic objections that the mind raises. And in discussing them like this, we are chipping away what you thought was evidence for a limited awareness. I hope as a result of our conversation you see is now it's evidence for the limited content of the mind, but it's not evidence for the limitation of awareness itself. So in having these conversations, we are eroding all the mind's objections and making it easier and easier and easier to go back to our true nature. That's not all we do in our conversations, but it's just one of them. Okay, there was a hand up over here, I think. Yes.
Hi, Rupert. I'm Claire.
Hello, Claire.
And it's a kind of similar point, but maybe coming from a slightly different place. In the meditation, I just felt, when you were saying, I've always felt the same since I was tiny, to when I was 21 to now, many years later. Same awareness, same that. And it just suddenly hit me that if I'm feeling that feeling of just, I don't know how to describe it, just peace, that knowing that I am, that awareness, everybody in this room, it's the same awareness.
Absolutely, yes. Yes.
And I just suddenly got it.
Yeah, yes, exactly. It's like suddenly realizing that all of you think of your bedroom at home. How many people are we here? 170 people. So think of 170 bedrooms. Are they 170 spaces? No. There's only one space in the universe. So here we are 170 people. Does that mean there's 170 beings? No. There's only one being, one aware being. And each of us are temporary enclosures of that, temporary localizations of that one being. Just like every building on earth is a temporary enclosure of the one space. And when you notice that, it's at a certain point it's so obvious. Of course, for someone who profoundly believes that every building has its own individual space, that the space in each building is generated by the walls, that's like believing that consciousness is generated by the brain. It's like believing that the space in this room was generated by the walls when this building was built. That's the equivalent. And then and that seems to make sense. You can build a model of reality, and then suddenly you realize, no, that doesn't work. No, there's only one space. And these four walls don't limit the space always. The space is shared between all the buildings. It suddenly makes sense. And it's the same. You suddenly realize we all share our being. We are one being. And then you go to an experience like love. What is the experience of love? What do you feel when you love someone? You feel you're one with them. You feel that everything that separates you from the other person dissolves, and you love someone to the degree that what separates you dissolves. So that's what the experience of love is. It is the felt sense of our shared being, our prior unity. It suddenly makes sense.
And that American lady who came up to you afterwards and said she wanted to go out and hug everyone.
Yes.
I just feel like that right now.
Yes.
I just think it's so beautiful.
Yes, exactly, because that's just one of the natural ways of expressing love. There are so many ways, so many ways. Yes, to smile, to laugh, to create, to make music, to cook a delicious meal, to write a book, to start a business, helping homeless people in your community. There are so many things that can be done, almost as many things as there are people to express, to bring this understanding into action in life. And it doesn't mean always doing what I'm doing, talking about it or writing. There are so many other ways of expressing this understanding, communicating it, sharing it, celebrating it.
Thank you.
Yes. Keep your hand up so we can find you.
Do attention and intention are vehicles for becoming aware of the awareness?
Are attention and intention vehicles for becoming aware?
Yes, like if I put my attention and intention even into outer space, for example.
Yes.
I might become aware of something.
Yes. Strictly speaking, you can't pay attention to awareness.
Okay.
You can only pay attention to something that is at a distance from yourself. Mm-hmm. If I were to ask you now, pay attention to the Christmas tree, or pay attention to the tingling sensation at the soles of your feet, pay attention to the memory of breakfast this morning. You can do that easily, but and each time you direct that's what attention means, to stretch, from tendere in Latin, meaning to stretch. You stretch awareness. If I say, pay attention to the Christmas tree, you stretch your awareness towards the Christmas tree. Mm-hmm. If I say, pay attention to the soles of your feet, you stretch your awareness toward. If I say, pay attention to breakfast, you stretch your awareness into the past. But now if I say, pay attention to awareness, where do you stretch your attention?
I go more in and...
Yeah, but what do you do with your attention, given that attention is the stretching of awareness towards an object, a thought, a feeling? if I say pay attention to awareness, where are you going to stretch your attention to? So if you think of attention like a rubber band, on one end of the rubber band, on one end of the rubber band is awareness. Awareness is the source of attention. Awareness is like the light bulb on a torch. You have a torch, it has the light bulb, that's the source of the light, and then you shine the torch on an object. You shine the beam of light on an object. The beam of light is attention. The light bulb is the source. So you can shine the beam of light on a thought, on a sensation, on a memory, on an idea, on an image, on a physical object. But now what if I asked you pay attention to awareness? It's like trying to shine the torch on the bulb. You can't do it. You can only shine the torch on everything apart from the bulb. Why can't you shine the torch on the bulb? Because the bulb is too close to itself. It's the same reason you can't see your eyes. You can see everything apart from your eyes because everything apart from your eyes stands at a distance from your eyes. You can see me because I stand at a distance from you. You can see the mic because it stands at albeit a lesser distance from you. You can see the end of your nose because there's a little bit of distance between your eyes, but you can't see your eyes because in order to see that, there has to be a subject and an object. There has to be a distance. In fact, in order to have any experience, there has to be a subject and an object. The subject-object relationship is the mechanism by which experience takes place. So what happens when you try to pay attention to awareness? Where do you stretch your awareness towards? You don't stretch it anywhere because awareness is already... It's like if I were to ask you, stand up and take a step towards yourself. Where would you go? You wouldn't move. So you can't pay attention to awareness. You can pay attention to everything apart from awareness, but you can't pay attention to awareness. That's why meditation is often referred to as the relaxing of attention, or the sinking of attention, or the subsiding of attention. It's not a directing of attention, or at least not what we understand as meditation here. There are some forms of meditation which I would suggest a kind of preparatory meditations where you might give your attention to a mantra, to the breath, to the flame, to the sky, to an image, a deity, and so on. But these are temporary objects that we give our attention to as a preparation to this ultimate meditation, which is the subsidence of attention, the sinking back of attention. So you can have the intention to go back to your true nature, but you can't give your attention to yourself. You relax back into yourself. You don't direct your attention towards yourself.
Thank you so much.
Yes. Keep your hand up. That's it, yeah.
Hello, thank you so much.
Hello.
My name is Anne, and my mind is going blank. I've been everything you've said has sort of I've been orbiting around this question around containment. So containment of awareness. You know, if we are all points of consciousness, I suppose, for like a blunt term. I don't know if I'm using the right words, but something I'm becoming aware of as I'm listening to everyone speak is I had an experience when my mother passed away where I suddenly became really aware of awareness. And a lot of, I felt this dissolving quality to my experience, like everything I thought somehow no longer was, and everything felt very vast to me. And it happened very suddenly, and I felt frightened by it.
Okay.
amidst the other emotions, but the feeling was like, oh my gosh, no, I need this containment. So what would you recommend? I mean, I do meditate, but yeah, there's this, and there's a sense of, there was a huge sense of liberation in it as well.
Okay.
Where, yeah, space became everything, and it was scary for me.
Did you say your name was Anne?
Anne,
Anne.
yes.
And what I suggest happened was this. Your normal experience happens in time. Imagine a horizontal line of time which represents the flow of your life, and thoughts, images, feelings, actions, and one after the other. So normally we feel we're flowing along a line of time, moving throughout the day, moving throughout the week, and so on. Every now and then, something happens to interrupt that flow. Now, actually, there are numerous very, very subtle interruptions every day. The end of a thought or perception, the fulfillment of a desire, the experience of pleasure. There are numerous kind of mini interruptions, but they're usually so small we don't notice them. The flow of life just carries on. But sometimes an event happens in our life that is so big we notice it. Our mother passes away. And that interrupts the horizontal flow of time. It's a vertical interruption, and it's like time stops. And sometimes you can feel it very. It's like there's a break in your life, and the reason, and that's a vertical intervention of your being. You are no longer on the line of time, going from one thought to the next. Your life has stopped. You've been brought into the now, into the eternal now, the ever-present now, because the event is so momentum that you're no longer thinking about what you're going to do tomorrow. Tomorrow doesn't exist for you. All that exists is the intensity of the moment, the grief in this case. So you've been forcibly brought. The line of time has been forcibly interrupted, and you've been brought into the eternal now. And that is frightening. It can be frightening. It's not always. It can be very peaceful, but it can be frightening. Why? Because your identity is invested in the narrative that is derived from the line of time. What you did for the last 10, 20, 30 years, and what you're going to do for the next 10, 20. Your identity is woven around, is based on the narrative that exists on this line of time. But now this line of time has been interrupted. It's been fractured. So your identity loses its associations. And it can no longer stand. It's been robbed of the very narrative on which it depends for its identity. So you feel that you're dying. That's why it's afraid. Not who you truly are, but the self, the thought-constructed self, the ego, the separate self. It doesn't really die because it never really existed in the first place. But the illusion of the separate self is interrupted. It dies, and you feel you're dying. And so you're afraid to die. Yeah. And that's why you feel. That's why this tremendous grief in your case was accompanied by great fear.
Yeah, that's really, yeah.
So what to do? That was your question. You said something about containment. If I understood you rightly, correct me if I'm wrong, but you meant you wanted to somehow contain these feelings. Is that what you meant by?
Yeah, I wanted to contain the experience because I started to experience time as nonlinear.
Sorry, say that.
I started to experience time as nonlinear, so I could actually experience other places.
Absolutely, time is.
Where I wasn't.
Yes, time. If you take away the experience of thought, if you imagine, you can do an experiment with yourself. If you imagine you weren't able to think, you would have no knowledge of time. Time only exists in our mind. There's no actual experience of time. Our actual experience is the now, and in our experience, the now is not moving along a line of time. The now is stationary. It's just always the same now. It's not going anywhere. It hasn't come from anywhere. So that's what you experienced. You stepped off the line of time and you just came into the ever-present now. And the ever-present now is the one place the ego cannot exist. The ego needs the past and the future to refer to build a narrative around. So divested of the past and the future, the ego dies. And it's why in the spiritual traditions, the here and now are given so much importance. They're a kind of portal through which we pass out of time into eternity. And that's what you experienced, not through meditation, but through the intensity of the grief. You were brought into the now. And it was fearful from the point of view of the separate self, but also something deeper in you recognized, this is what I want.
Yes.
I want to stay here. And in future I want to get here. I don't want the experience to be precipitated by intense grief. I want to go there naturally and effortlessly, and I want to live there. So that's what we do here, to go there naturally and effortlessly, not through tremendous grief or just to learn to go there naturally and effortlessly, and to stay there.
Yeah, and to trust it too. To trust it.
And to trust it, yes. But the more you go there, you understand what I mean. The more you abide in your being, the more you'll trust it.
Oh yeah.
It comes with its own authority, its own evidence.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yes, just in front of you. Yeah.
Hello there.
Hello.
Hi, Rupert. My name's Mark. I'm a late arriver to this, and I was listening to one of your talks today on the way here. It was wonderful. It reflects a lot of the things you've just said about, like that idea of shared love being a shared being, and being at one. And it really struck me, But then I was thinking. So what about when you feel so close to someone, like codependency, where you've got that sort of merging or sort of a fusion, but it doesn't necessarily feel stable. And while I was thinking it in the same talk, you were talking about what it was to be human and fear and need. I think that's what I was remembering.
Yes, Mark. Codependency, the kind of the merging of a codependent relationship is possibly mimics the true love, which is the sharing of being. It can look like the same superficially, but codependency always arises between two egos. Two egos basically subscribe to the same set of beliefs, and that causes a codependent relationship. But love is the recognition of our shared being. It's not something that takes place between two egos. In fact, it takes place in the absence of the ego. So although the codependent relationship can sometimes look superficially like a truly loving relationship, it's not. It's just a pact between two egos. And sooner or later, it usually comes unstuck. But the recognition of our shared unity is something completely different, and also can bring tremendous closeness in an intimate relationship, but it tends to be free of codependency, so there's a lot of freedom in the relationship. You may choose to stay together for 50 years, but the relationship is based on this deep sharing of your being, not on any shared belief system that you've both bought into.
Yeah, and I guess I was thinking about this, and I caught up with a friend locally here, and I don't know why, but I felt this sadness. I thought, am I being codependent, or is there just the sadness? I don't expect you to be able to answer it because you weren't there, but
no, yeah. but also even if there is an element of codependency, I don't mean to imply that relationships are either codependent or they're truly loving. They're very often a mixture of both. And if you notice that there's a codependent element in your relationship, you can explore that together and relinquish that. The relationship doesn't need to fall apart. On the contrary, it can get much deeper, freer and deeper and more truly loving, less fear, less attachment. So it's not a bad thing to recognize that a relationship is codependent. It doesn't necessarily mean you're going to separate. It could mean it could mean that, but it could mean the opposite. It could bring you much closer together, because a pact between two egos is not really a close relationship. It kind of mimics closeness, and there may be moments of closeness, but it's not a truly loving relationship.
Yeah, I just really loved your notion of the oneness of shared being.
Yes.
I was just comparing it, but yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Let's go to the right at the back there, yes.
Good evening. Excuse me. Good evening, Rupert.
Hello.
My name's George.
Hello, George.
I'm relatively new here as well. This is a little half-baked, but I'll try my best. You mentioned earlier on that there's nothing within the content of experience that will alter awareness,
Yes.
which I can understand.
Yes.
I've found that there are things within the content of experience that do raise my awareness. For example, art, sort of the recognition of beauty.
Yes.
Things of that sort. Experiencing the natural world.
Keep using the mic, yes.
Sorry, experiencing the natural world.
Yes.
Is there any merit in using the content of experience to raise awareness, or am I missing the point slightly?
Yes, very, very much so. You raise awareness to make you aware of awareness. Yes,
to recognise.
That's what we're doing here. Yeah, we're using the content of experience, words, language, conversation, for the purpose of recognizing, first of all, the presence of awareness, and then recognizing the nature of awareness. So we are using the content of experience, in this case words, in service of this recognition of our true nature. And as you say, the words are just one medium. There are many other art, beauty, the natural, for many people, the natural world. Walking in nature, suspend, going back to the horizontal line of time on which we lead our lives. Very often you find when you're walking in nature, you leave behind the past, and you're just alone, you're just in the moment, you're just present. So for many people, walking in nature just takes them to their being. Yes, art, I would suggest that not the only function of art, but the highest function of art was to do precisely this. It's what Cézanne explicitly said. The purpose of his paintings was to give people a taste of nature's eternity. That is, to give people the taste of that which is eternal in nature, consciousness or being. So Pasolini said of his films, "I want my films to restore to reality its original sacred significance." Many artists, many of the, I would suggest all the really great artists, that ultimately their purpose was to penetrate through the veil of perception to the reality that lies behind it and expresses itself in it. And painting, music, literature, poetry, cooking, dancing, looking after children. I mean, there are so many ways. So yes, in answer to your question, yes, you use the content of experience both to take you back to your true nature and to express the qualities that are inherent in your true nature. Yes.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, okay, let's go over to that corner. You two at the back. But both of you, we'll have time for both of you, yeah?
Good evening, Rupert. Thank you so much for having us all here with you. I really appreciate your efforts to dismantle the materialist worldview. That's something I often, I remember hearing you in conversation with Sam Harris, and you were very firm, and I really appreciated the kind of standing up for the consciousness's primary point of view. I have a question, because there's so many different objections, and lots of them have been raised tonight, such as, well, how come I'm aware of my thoughts and you're aware of yours? That would suggest consciousness is divisible. I'm interested to hear what your response is to people. If I was a staunch materialist who said, the Sam Harris example in particular, the split brain, well, they do these things where they split the brain, and now one hand is doing one thing as if it belongs to one person, and the other hand, they often have these experiments with hands of the same person of fighting within one person, and they use that is used as a strong argument to say, see there, we've proved it, consciousness can be split. So I'd just love to hear your rebuttal of that argument against the primacy of consciousness.
Okay, it's a little bit late in the evening to embark on this. Because I would say, so thus far in the conversation, in some of your questions, Matty's questions, I have made a concession to the belief that there is something called matter. And I've just suggested that this stuff called matter, although it exists, it doesn't generate consciousness. That's a concession that accommodates the belief in this stuff called matter, and then there's a debate about which comes first. So actually my views are much more radical than that. I didn't want to say too much, but seeing as you've asked the question, I'm compelled to answer. I would suggest that not only the question as to whether or not matter produces consciousness, it's like asking, does a landscape in the movie create the screen? Well, if there was a real landscape in a movie, you could debate, does the landscape come first or does the screen come first? Well, we know that the screen creates the landscape, but someone could say, no, the landscape was there first, the landscape. But there isn't a landscape in the movie. There's only the screen. The landscape is just what the screen looks like. Well, I would say the same thing. I would suggest that consciousness is all there is. I'll come back to that in a minute. And that matter, the material world, is what the activity of consciousness looks like when viewed through the perceiving faculties of a finite mind. Well, I'm going to give you two ideas to take away with you. First of all, is anybody here experiencing, in this moment now, is anyone here experiencing anything other than the knowing of their experience? If you're experiencing a thought, you're experiencing the knowing of that thought. If you're experiencing this room, you're experiencing the knowing of this side. Are you experiencing anything other than the knowing of your experience? Put your hand up if you're experiencing anything other than knowing of your experience. And now go back into your past. Go back over the entirety of your life. Has anyone here ever experienced, not just now, but in your past, have you ever experienced anything other than the knowing of your experience? And now you let your imagination roam free. Go wherever you like in the realm of experience. The most extreme experiences you can imagine. Could you ever encounter anything other than the knowing of your experience? If you had a vision of God, would there be anything to that vision other than the knowing of it? If you have a profound depression is there anything to that experience other than the knowing of it? If you're ecstatically happy, is there anything to that experience other than the knowing of it? If you're in intense physical pain, is there anything to that experience other than the knowing of it? Can any of you find anything other than the knowing of your experience? I'm not going to respond to your hand going. One hand did go up, but only very tentatively. But time is getting short, so I'll leave this with you. Just explore this for yourself. See if you have ever, do ever, or could ever encounter anything other than the knowing of your experience. What I'm getting at is this: knowing is the only substance you have ever experienced. Knowing or consciousness is the only substance that anyone has ever or could ever experience. And if you want to build a model of reality, doesn't it make sense to build it on the one element of experience that is absolutely undeniable? No one has ever experienced a material world, because what we experience as the material world is an appearance in consciousness. Can any of you now find an experience that takes place outside consciousness? What kind of an experience would an experience be that took place outside consciousness? Is the sound of my voice taking place outside consciousness? Is the sight of this room taking place outside consciousness? No one has ever found anything outside consciousness. If you look up the definition of matter, or one of the definition of matter, it's that which exists outside consciousness. No one has ever found it. Scientists, physicists have been looking for it for 2,500 years. They still haven't found it. They get finer and finer and finer and finer, and now physicists are beginning to realize maybe consciousness has something to do with it. Maybe consciousness is fundamental. Many physicists say that now. So that would be my response to a materialist. Your worldview is you believe that the one thing you have never experienced, matter, generates the only thing you have ever experienced, consciousness. Okay, I'm going to say that was the one thing I'll leave you with to explore. Second thing, what I referred to earlier, that in this consciousness-only model, and the consciousness-only model, it's not some highfalutin idea. It's based on the one given fact of experience. There is consciousness. So if there is only consciousness, how is it that there seems to be a world outside of us made out of something other than consciousness, namely matter? Think what takes place when you have a dream at night. Your own mind, your own individual mind is a little mini field of consciousness. The consciousness itself is not limited, but it's a mini field of consciousness, like this is a mini field of space. And your own mind at night imagines a dreamed world within itself, but it can't view the dreamed world directly from where you are asleep in bed. You never, if you dream you're on a Caribbean beach, you don't view the Caribbean beach from your bed in Totnes. You view the Caribbean beach from the deck chair on the beach. So your own mind, which is a homogeneous field, albeit a mini field of consciousness, divides itself in two. It imagines the Caribbean beach, but simultaneously localizes itself as a separate subject of experience on the Caribbean beach, in the deck chair. And you view the Caribbean beach through you asleep in Totnes, you view the Caribbean beach through the perceiving faculties of the person you seem to be on the deck chair. In other words, your own mind divides itself into subject and object. The entire dream is the activity of your own mind. But you, on the deck chair, don't know that. You don't know that the knowing with which you perceive the Caribbean beach isn't anywhere to be found in the time and space in which the dreamed world seems to exist. It exists in Totnes. But you don't know that. You think that the knowing with which you perceive the Caribbean beach lives in your mind, in your brain. And when you close your eyes, the Caribbean beach disappears. When you open them again, it reappears. And you think, well, it's obvious. Consciousness just lives. This is you on your deck chair. You think it's obvious. Consciousness lives just behind my eyes. And then you wake up. And you realize that the consciousness with which you experienced the dream didn't exist anywhere in the time and space in which the dream seemed to exist. And that what appeared to be a material world, that the sand, the sea, the rocks, the trees on the Caribbean was really the activity of your own mind. It just looked like a material world when you perceived it through the perceiving faculties of the person you seemed to be in the dream. Now take that mechanism, and this is a mechanism that happens in nature. We all know every single night our own mind divides itself into a subject-object relationship, and what is actually the activity of our own mind appears as a physical world when viewed from the perspective of a separate subject of experience. Now imagine, take now your own finite, forget the dream analogy, that was just an analogy. Take your experience now and imagine that you are a character in the dream of infinite consciousness. That infinite consciousness is, as it were, dreaming the world and simultaneously localizing itself, not just as one character on the deck chair, but as numerous characters, numerous points of view within its own dream, through whose perceiving faculties it perceives itself as an outside world. In other words, I'm taking a known mechanism that happens in nature, the dream, and I'm just extrapolating it one level up and suggesting that that is like a fractal, a blueprint. What takes place in a dream is like a blueprint for what takes place in consciousness. So this would explain, this is two things. This is, one, it's consistent with our experience, namely consciousness that is all that is ever known. Knowing is all that is ever known. So I'm building a model of reality that is consistent with experience and uses a known mechanism in nature. I'm not inventing some extraordinary highfalutin idea. I'm just taking a known mechanism, the subject-object relationship that happens in a dream, and just transposing it to consciousness. So those two ideas would be my argument to this die-hard materialist. And with that, sorry, I said that we were going to have room for your question, but I didn't realize what the question was going to be, and it would take. So I'm sorry that we don't have time for your question. So I think Shukra is going to say something. Thank you, Shukra, Vanessa, Saul, Adam, and have a lovely Christmas and New Year, and see some of you again in January. Thank you.
Thank you to you, Rupert, and to everyone for coming and your wonderful questions and presents. On behalf of the Rupert Spira Foundation, I am delighted to announce some dates for 2026. So put these in your diary. The next meeting here at Dartington Hall will be on the 16th of January. We'll have also one on the 20th of February, and a meeting on the 27th of March. I will be following up this meeting with an email with all of the details for this, and they will be available to book on the Rupert Spira Foundation website, which I will also email out. And on the website, you can also read about the different Rupert Spira Foundation projects. Some of them Kira mentioned at the last meeting. I will send those details. And finally, the Rupert Spira Foundation has organised these meetings and aims to make this teaching as accessible and freely available to all as possible. So on that note, we have a QR code at the back as you're leaving for any donations, as the foundation runs completely on donations. Anything you want to give, no matter how small, is greatly appreciated. And we look forward to being together very soon. Thank you very much.